In this video, we are going to be learning about integers and absolute value. Our learning goals are correctly label a number line using integers, determine which integer is greater. You did those two things in 6th grade, so that's a review. Define absolute value and identify absolute values. So first, stop and think, where do you see negative numbers in real life? Because they do show up a lot. So it's just, you can pause the video if you need to. Stop and think about where you see negative numbers. And looks like I have to get rid of my camera. I can't move it. Oh, it's only slightly in the way. Okay, so first we need to review some vocabulary. Our first word is integers. So on your notes, make sure you fill in these blanks. Integers are a set of whole numbers, their opposites, and zero. So since they are whole numbers, integers cannot be fractions, and integers cannot be decimals. Also, integers do not have labels, just the digits. So if it's asking you to write an integer for a situation, like our 4 examples here, you just have to come up with the number. So the first example says 13 degrees below 0. So below means negative. Really, you're just figuring out, is it positive or negative? So 13 degrees below 0 is negative 13. Now you're going to answer these next 3 questions on the Edpuzzle video and then check your answers. About integers, we also need to talk about the number line. The number line continues forever in both directions. So just because our number line has negative 10 and positive 10, that doesn't mean it stops there. The arrow tells you it continues on and never ends. Numbers on the right are greater. Numbers on the left are less than or smaller. So when you're trying to decide if two numbers are, which number is larger, you just have to think about where it would fall on the number line. Like -2 is actually larger than -10. Sometimes our brains want to make 10 bigger because 10 is bigger than 2. But the more negative it is, the smaller the number. So on these examples, you're going to answer these on your worksheet and in the Edpuzzle video. You're just going to write the less than symbol or the greater than symbol. So this first one, we're looking at +5. +5 is right here. And -1. So we can tell that 5 is to the right, so 5 is greater, and you can always remember alligator eats the bigger number. So in this question, 5 is larger. Now answer the next questions and check them in the Edpuzzle video. Next, we're talking about absolute value. The absolute value, make sure you fill this on your notes. Absolute value of an integer is its distance from 0 on the number line. The symbol for absolute value is 2 bars. Don't get them confused with the number 1. I see a lot of people that look at this and think, oh, that's 1 minus 51. Those bars mean the absolute value. So the absolute value of -5, the distance from -5 on the number line is 5. So the definition is the distance from the number line. So 5 is the absolute value of -5. +5 is the same thing though, because +5 is also 5 away from 0, just on the positive direction. Absolute value is always positive, and Michael's going to show us here why. So if you go in a negative direction, you're still going somewhere. You can't go a negative distance. It's just not possible. I mean, maybe if we could time travel. So if you're going negative, you can have a negative direction, but you can never have a negative distance, because even though he's going backwards, he's still going somewhere. So absolute value will always be a positive number. Here are a few facts about absolute values. Absolute value, like we just said, are always positive because a distance can never be a negative number. Opposite integers have the same absolute value. Like you saw earlier in your notes, -5 and +5 both had an absolute value of +5. And then the last thing about absolute value, if there are negative signs on the outside of the absolute value brackets, then they are brought down. So absolute value itself is never negative, but like in example 3 and 4 here, if you have a number on the outside, then it comes back into the absolute value. So we're going to look at number 4, and then you're going to do 1, 2, and 3 on Edpuzzle. So this one says, number 4, the negative 82. So the negative absolute value of negative 82. So the absolute value of negative 82 is 82 because 82 is 82 steps away from 0. But then the negative is on the outside of the absolute value symbol, so we keep that negative. So the negative absolute value of negative 82 is going to be negative 82. And to summarize, we've now learned how to label the number line using integers. We reviewed that from your 6th grade. We know how to tell if an integer, which one is greater. We can define absolute value and explain why it's always positive. And we can identify absolute value. Now you're ready to practice.